Many years ago, in the quiet village of Bend, an old woman named Mama D arrived without warning. She was frail, with deep wrinkles carved into her face, and her slow, deliberate movements made her seem even older than she probably was. Her gray hair was always tucked neatly beneath a faded scarf, and she never spoke of her past. No one knew where she had come from, and she never volunteered any information. The villagers, being a kind and close knit community, didn't question her much. They simply accepted her as she was just another lonely soul in need of a place to stay. Since she had no family, no husband, no children, and no relatives who ever came to visit, the people of Bend took pity on her. They brought her food, shared their firewood, and offered her small tokens of kindness to make her life easier. Despite her quiet nature, Mama Teen's grateful, always thanking people with a soft, knowing smile. As the weeks passed, Mamet settled into her small house at the edge of the village. She rarely ventured out except to visit the market, where she mostly kept to herself. The villagers had grown used to her presence, though no one truly knew much about her. In a place like Bend, life was simple, and people did not ask too many questions about things that did not directly affect them. So Mom and Dee remained a mystery, but a harmless one. It was enough for the villagers to see that she was old and alone. That was all they needed to justify their kindness. To them, she was merely a poor widow trying to survive her final years in peace. For months, things remained the same. The village carried on with its usual rhythm: farmers tending to their crops, traders selling their goods, and women gathering by the market to chat about everyday life. Mama D became just another quiet fixture in the community, but beneath her calm exterior, there was something unspoken, something unsettled. And though no one in Bend realized it yet, the presence of the old woman would soon bring about a series of events that would change their lives forever. One morning, Mom and Dee arrived at the market with an announcement that took the villagers by surprise. She stood near a group of women gathered around the fish stall, her frail hands clutching a small basket as she spoke with an unfamiliar excitement in her voice. "I have found a way to take care of myself," she said, smiling in a way that seemed almost relieved. The women turned to her with curiosity, eager to hear what she had to say. "I've gotten a contract with a company in the city," she explained. "They recycle old clothes and turn them into things like pillows, socks, and blankets. If I collect enough clothes and send them to the company, they will pay me." A moment of silence followed as the women processed this unexpected news. Then one of them smiled warmly and said, "That's wonderful, Mom and Dee. We've always worried about how you manage." The others nodded in agreement, pleased that the old woman had found a source of income. "But I need your help," Mom and Dee continued, her voice gentle yet firm. "If you have any old clothes you no longer wear, anything you don't need, please give them to me. It would help me a great deal." The request spread through the village quickly. Within days, nearly every household was contributing to Mama D's collection. Every week, she would push her old wheelbarrow from house to house, gathering bundles of worn-out wrappers, faded shirts, and torn dresses. The villagers were more than willing to help, and for many, it felt good to support an elderly woman who seemed so helpless. "I don't even wear half of these anymore," one woman said, handing over a bundle of clothes. "It's better they go to good use than just sit around collecting dust." Mum and Dee accepted each donation with a warm smile and soft words of blessing. "Thank you, my daughter," she would say, her voice full of gratitude. "May your generosity be rewarded." Over time, giving old clothes to Mama T became a habit in the village. People no longer thought twice about it. It was just something they did, like fetching water or tending their crops. After all, what harm could come from helping an old widow earn a little money? As the weeks passed, Mamandia's collection continued to grow, and the villagers took comfort in knowing they were helping someone in need. No one questioned where the clothes went or how they were used once they left the village. To them, it didn't matter. and it didn't matter. They saw Mama Dee push her wheelbarrow through the dirt paths, her thin figure moving steadily from house to house, and they felt a quiet satisfaction in their small acts of kindness. But what they didn't realize was that their simple, unquestioning generosity was feeding something far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. And by the time suspicion finally crept into the village, it was already too late. At first, no one in the village thought much about the small misfortunes that began to happen. A lost coin here, a spoiled batch of yams there, these things happened from time to time, and people simply blamed bad luck or carelessness. But soon, the misfortunes became more frequent and they were no longer small. Traders who had once thrived found themselves struggling to sell even the most basic goods. Farmers watched helplessly as their crops withered or rotted before harvest. Some villagers misplaced large sums of money, swearing they had put it in safe places only to find it gone without a trace. Whispers of bad luck spread through the market and across the village paths. "It's as if something is sucking the life out of this place," one woman muttered to her neighbor. Others agreed, sensing that something unnatural was at play. But in a village where people were slow to question things that didn't have clear explanations, most simply sighed and accepted their misfortunes as part of life. Joy, who had returned from the city to visit her mother, was not so quick to dismiss the strange happenings. She had grown up in Bend, but after spending time in the bustling city, she had learned to notice patterns that others overlooked. As she listened to the villagers' complaints about missing money, business failures, and crops that wouldn't grow, she couldn't shake the feeling that it was all connected. Then she noticed something else. Every time Mom and Dee visited her mother's house to collect old clothes, her mother seemed more troubled afterward. She spoke of unexpected difficulties, of things going missing, of a weight pressing down on the family. That was when Joy's memory stirred. She had seen Mama Dee before, not in Bend, but in Benin City, doing the exact same thing, collecting old clothes. A chill ran down her spine. "Mama, are you sure she's selling the clothes to a recycling company?" Joy asked one evening. Her mother frowned, as if she had never thought to question it. "That's what she told us," she replied hesitantly. But now doubt had crept in. Unable to ignore the gnawing suspicion, Joy decided to watch Mom and Dee more closely. Early one morning, instead of going about her usual errands, she quietly followed the old woman through the village. Mama Dee collected clothes as always, pushing her wheelbarrow slowly through the dusty roads, smiling at the villagers as they handed over their donations. But instead of taking the clothes to the main road toward the city, she turned down a secluded path leading to the outskirts of the village. Joy stayed at a safe distance, hiding behind trees and bushes as she tracked the old woman. After nearly an hour of walking, Mama Dee entered a dense forest. Joy hesitated, something deep inside her warned that she was about to witness something she might not be ready for. But curiosity pushed her forward. She crept closer and watched in shock as Mom and Dee stopped in a small clearing, unpacked the clothes, and poured kerosene over them. Then, as the flames roared to life, the old woman began to chant in a low, eerie voice. The hair on the back of Joy's neck stood on end. This wasn't recycling. This was something else, something dark. Joy's heart pounded as she crouched behind a tree, watching the old woman chant over the burning pile of clothes. The flickering flames cast eerie shadows across Mama Dee's wrinkled face, making her look even older, almost otherworldly. Though Joy couldn't make out the exact words, the tone of the chant was enough to send a chill down her spine. It was rhythmic, deliberate, and unsettling, as if she were summoning something. As if she were summoning something. For a moment, Joy wanted to turn back and pretend she had never seen any of this, but she knew what she had witnessed wasn't normal. It wasn't the harmless recycling story Mom and Dee had told the village. This was something else entirely, something dark. She stayed hidden until Mama D finished scooping the ashes into a clay pot and carefully sealing it. Only after the old woman disappeared into the night did Joy dare to move. She felt sick, her stomach twisting with unease. Whatever was happening here, it wasn't just about old clothes. And if her suspicions were right, it was connected to the strange misfortunes plaguing the village. The next morning, Joy confronted her mother. "Mama, I followed Mom and Dee last night," she admitted, her voice steady despite the fear that still gripped her. Her mother looked up from where she sat, peeling cassava. "What do you mean you followed her?" she asked, her brow furrowing. Joy took a deep breath. "She's not selling the clothes, she's burning them in the forest." And she was chanting something that didn't sound right. Her mother's hands froze mid-motion, her face turning pale. "Burning them?" she whispered. "Why would she do that?" Joy shook her head. "I don't know, Mama, but this isn't normal." It has to be connected to everything happening in the village. Her mother hesitated before sighing deeply. "If what you say is true, then we need to find out more." The weight of their conversation hung between them, heavy with unspoken fears. That night, Joy made a decision. She needed answers, real answers, and there was only one place she could think of to find them. The next day, she packed her things and traveled to Benin City, determined to learn the truth about Mama D's past. In the city, Joy retraced her steps to the neighborhood where she had first seen Mama and Dee years ago. She spoke with the locals, asking carefully worded questions about the old woman. The stories she uncovered made her blood run cold. That woman brought nothing but misfortune, a middle-aged man named Osaro told her. She was always collecting clothes, and people thought they were helping her. But after she left, everything started falling apart. Businesses collapsed. People lost their savings, some even fell sick. Another woman chimed in. "No one knew what was happening until someone figured it out. She was using our clothes for rituals, but by then, it was too late. She had vanished." A sinking feeling settled in Joy's stomach. The same thing was happening in Bend, and if they didn't stop her soon, it might be too late for her village, too. Gathering as much information as she could, Joy hurried back home, her mind racing with everything she had learned. Mama D wasn't just an old woman trying to survive, she was something far more dangerous. And now Joy had the proof she needed to stop her. Joy returned to Bend with a sense of urgency burning in her chest. The stories she had heard in Benin City confirmed her worst fears. Mama D was no innocent old woman, and the village was in danger. She wasted no time in gathering a few trusted men from the community and telling them everything she had learned. At first, they were skeptical. "She's just an old woman," one of them said, shaking his head. What harm could she possibly do? But as Joy recounted the details, the businesses that collapsed in Benin, the missing money, the sicknesses, unease began to spread among them. "We have to catch her in the act," she insisted. "If we confront her without proof, she'll deny everything." "We need the village to see the truth for themselves," the men agreed, and together they made a plan. That night, they would follow Mama D into the forest and witness her rituals firsthand. If she truly was behind the misfortunes in Bend, they would have no choice but to expose her. Under the cover of darkness, Joy and the men moved cautiously through the outskirts of the village, keeping a safe distance as they tracked Mama and Dee. Just as before, she carried a sack of clothes and walked the same path toward the dense forest. They followed silently, careful not to reveal their presence. After nearly an hour, they reached the clearing, and there she was, standing before a pile of clothes, her hands trembling slightly as she poured kerosene over the fabric. Then, just as Joy had seen before, Mom and Dee struck a match and the flames roared to life. The men watched in stunned silence as she began to chant, her voice low and rhythmic, weaving through the crackling fire like a snake in the grass. When she reached for the clay pot, scooping up the ashes with careful hands, something inside Joy snapped. "That's enough!" she shouted, stepping forward. The men followed, their expressions dark with anger. Mama D froze, her wide eyes filled with shock. Joy? She stammered, her voice shaking. What are you doing here? Joy's jaw tightened. The real question is, what are you doing? The men closed in around her, their faces twisted in fury. You lied to us, one of them growled. You said you were selling the clothes, but you're burning them. What for? The commotion quickly drew the attention of the villagers, who arrived one by one, their curiosity turning to horror as they saw the burning pile and the clay pot filled with ashes. Mama D, is this true? Someone demanded. The old woman opened her mouth to protest, but the weight of the accusing stares pressed down on her. She knew she had been caught. Trembling, she dropped to her knees. Please, she whispered. I had no choice. The crowd fell silent, waiting for her confession. With a broken voice, she admitted everything: how she had stolen their fortunes, how she had transferred their blessings to her own children, and how she had been doing it for years. Gasps of disbelief filled the air, quickly replaced by murmurs of rage. You stole our destinies? A man shouted. That's why we've been suffering. The anger in the crowd swelled, but before anyone could act, Joy raised a hand. We need justice, she said firmly, but not violence. The villagers hesitated, torn between fury and reason. At last, someone spoke. Then let's search her house, they decided. We need to see just how deep this evil runs. And with that, they turned toward Mama D's home, determined to uncover the full truth. The villagers stormed into Mama D's house, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and anger. The small, dimly lit space smelled of dust and something else, something old and unsettling. As the men began to tear through the clutter, a chilling discovery unfolded before their eyes. Hidden beneath piles of rags and bundles of clothes, they found strange objects: clay pots filled with ashes, twisted strings tied around locks of hair, and a small wooden carving surrounded by black beads. At the center of it all stood an altar, its surface covered in red stains and symbols no one could understand. Gasps filled the room as realization dawned. This is witchcraft, an elderly man muttered, his voice laced with horror. Mama D, still trembling, let out a desperate cry. You don't understand. I did it for my children. They have good lives now, all because of this. But her words only fueled the villagers' rage. At our expense, a woman shouted. While we suffered, while our families struggled, you took everything from us. The weight of her betrayal pressed upon them, heavy and undeniable. There was no doubt left. Mom and Dee had been stealing their destinies, their blessings, their very livelihoods, all for the sake of her own family's success. With a sense of urgency, the villagers gathered every cursed item and dragged them outside. A young woman, her face twisted in disgust, took the first step forward. Without hesitation, she lifted her skirts and urinated over the pile, an act meant to break whatever power the objects held. The moment her urine touched the altar, a piercing scream filled the air. Mama D collapsed, clutching her chest, her body convulsing violently on the ground. No, she wailed, her voice raw with anguish. You've ruined everything. The villagers watched in stunned silence as her body twisted in pain, her cries fading into a whisper before she fell still. A heavy silence hung over them, the weight of what they had witnessed pressing into their chests. When someone finally spoke, their voice was barely above a whisper. What do we do with her body? The answer came with little hesitation. She doesn't deserve a proper burial. And so, without ceremony, they carried Mom and Dee to the outskirts of the forest, burying her in a shallow grave far from the village. The past could not be undone, but at least now the evil she had brought upon them was buried along with her. In the weeks that followed, the village slowly began to heal. Business picked up, money stopped vanishing, and the weight that had hung over them for so long seemed to lift. People whispered that it was as if they had been given a second chance, but the experience had left its mark on them, a lesson they would never forget. No longer would they give away their belongings so freely, especially not to strangers whose intentions they did not fully understand. It was a harsh reality, but one they could not ignore sometimes. Even acts of kindness could be used against you. As the world grows more interconnected, stories like Mom and Dee's serve as a reminder to be cautious. We must be generous, but also discerning. We must help those in need, but never at the cost of our own well-being. The villagers of Ben learned this lesson the hard way, but their suffering had not been in vain. It had given them wisdom, a newfound awareness that they would carry for generations to come.